aging bread like fine wine, putting the griddle to work, and not leaving the kitchen until it's packed with goodies. The French toast you make at home might be good, but here's why it always tastes better at a restaurant. The pre-packaged bread lining an aisle of a grocery store has a time and a place, but it is not in French toast. When restaurants make French toast, they use bread that is very different from the thinly sliced sandwich loaves found throughout the bread aisle of your local grocery. There are a few reasons foregoing this type of bread makes all the difference in the outcome of French toast. First, pre-sliced and packaged grocery store bread means you get thin, wispy little pieces of bread. This is great for packing lunch, but not ideal for a hearty slab of French toast perfection. Second, pre-packaged bread is often pumped full of preservatives to keep it soft and fresh, which again is excellent for sandwiches, but is counterproductive for French toast, a dish specifically designed around stale bread. With many restaurant French toasts, you will likely find thick Texas-cut slices of bread. They may even make them with enriched bread, like brioche or challah, cut into substantial hunks.
I won't be able to make Penny breakfast every day, and she'll realize my brioche French toast was the only thing keeping her in the marriage.
This sets restaurant French toast apart from sad, flimsy French toast made from Wonder Bread and the like. The key to many facets of cooking is time, and the same is true for French toast. While at home, it's easy to dunk bread into the egg and milk wash and call it a day. But restaurants know the key to good French toast is to let it sit. For pan-fried French toast, this means letting the slices of thick bread really absorb the liquid. It can take up to 5 minutes of soaking for the bread to absorb all the liquid it needs. The bread needs this much time because, as we've established, it's often thicker than typical sliced bread, and the wash requires time to permeate throughout.
And you want to cut the pieces almost a full inch thick.
I was going to say, those are big, hearty
you want real
slices
thick
of bread.
Pieces. You don't want to use, little flimsy bread for this stuff.
Of course, French toast comes in various forms, both at home and in restaurants. If you wondered why baked French toast at restaurants is so custardy and delicious, it's because they do not just pour and bake. A few minutes simply will not cut it. Restaurants may let the bread sit in the egg and milk wash overnight, allowing a thorough saturation before cooking. Sometimes, though, the reason restaurant French toast is so much better is that they think outside of the box and forego traditional bread altogether. Restaurants are experts at getting creative with ingredients to create delicious new takes on classic dishes.
We actually have caramel corn in the batter, caramel corn and caramel, and secret spices, which I can't tell anybody.
The doorstop, for example, has been known to use banana bread as the basis for its French toast. It's a good way to use up a surplus of banana bread, resulting in a decadent French toast. Other options include using cinnamon raisin bread, leftover babka, or even pound cake. Restaurants are masters at using ingredients they have on hand to create dishes. To reduce waste and replicate this at home, find a tasty bready treat you have left over and turn it into French toast. A final note on bread choices: restaurants are not using fresh bread. Fresh bread means more upfront cost, and when it comes to French toast, fresh bread actually produces a lower quality product. French toast was designed as a way to use up stale bread. Stale, dry bread does a better job of soaking up the milk and egg mixture than fresh bread. If restaurants use fresh bread, they often dry it out before turning it into French toast. This can mean simply opening up some bread, exposing it to the air, and letting it get stale naturally, or putting sliced pieces in an oven to dry it out. Either way, restaurants are not using fresh, soft, fluffy bread for their French toast. They reserve that for sandwiches. Once it has passed that stage, it's time for a bath in some egg wash and some frying. Have you noticed that when you make French toast at home, it gets soggy and limp by the time it's served? Yet when you order French toast at a restaurant, it's perfectly crispy on the outside? Restaurants are not just cooking French toast and leaving it on a plate to gather moisture from steam while the chef fries up the next batch. They use tricks to keep the French toast warm and from collecting extra moisture. Chef Alton Brown uses a method where you layer an oven-safe cooling rack on top of a baking sheet. Once each batch of French toast is done cooking, place them in a single layer on the baking sheet and put that into the oven. This will keep all the French toast warm and crispy. The oven should be set low enough that even though they are warm, it's not going to burn the French toast. Restaurants really go all out for that food experience. A key advantage restaurants have for French toast is having the right equipment for it. Two main options for cooking stovetop French toast are a griddle or a frying pan. Most restaurants, especially dinner-style restaurants, have a griddle. Griddles are large, heated flat tops you can cook directly onto. Griddles are perfect for cooking breakfast food because they cook quickly and hot. This makes them ideal for French toast. It gives a nice, crispy outside without overcooking the inside. Home cooks can replicate this by using a plug-in electric griddle if one is available. Of course, not all restaurants cook French toast on a griddle. However, those doing it in a pan know how to do it correctly. First, the pan must be hot before food is added. Otherwise, the food will stick, and you will lose that delicious, crispy outside. Next, the butter or oil must also be hot before adding the dredged bread. You want that quintessential sizzle the minute the bread hits the pan. That sound isn't just pleasing to the ear, it lets you know the bread is cooking and crispy French toast is on its way. Restaurants know there is a particular technique when it comes to the mixture you use to soak the bread for French toast. Some of it comes down to preference, as some chefs prefer a milk-heavy base, and some prefer an egg-heavy base. However, if you find that your French toast just never matches up to that at a restaurant, you might have the wrong ratio. An egg-heavy French toast batter will produce a thicker, fattier French toast. Since there is not as much liquid, the result will be heavier and more dense. French toast that is milk-heavy will be lighter. While there is no right or wrong answer, milk-heavy French toast can potentially produce a soggy product. Putting bread in too much milk can cause it to start to disintegrate. Restaurants work around the soggy bread issue by ditching low-fat or skim milk in favor of high-fat dairy options. The high-fat dairy will give a luscious, creamy taste and texture because it has more cream. Whole-fat milk is a good standard since it will add moisture but has enough fat to add that rich texture for perfect custardy French toast. Restaurants even go beyond just using whole-fat milk. Alton Brown uses half and half, which is half whole milk and half heavy cream. Some restaurants, such as Crest Cafe, forego the milk part in favor of straight-up heavy cream. It's easy to see why restaurant French toast is so good when they use thicker dairy products to make it. However, all is not lost for homemade French toast if you don't have heavy cream or half and half handy. While for many years, low-fat milk sales were on an upward trend, low-fat milk sales are now going down, and whole milk sales are currently on the rise. If this trend continues, it could help bring better French toast to kitchens everywhere. It's a win for all French toast lovers. The home cook's simple and basic way to make French toast is just 2 ingredients: eggs and milk. That's fine and all, but it won't win any awards. Restaurants excel because they know how to add little ingredients that make a big difference. Spices like cinnamon, nutmeg, or ginger can be added to round out the flavor and give a spiced note to the French toast. A splash of vanilla in the batter brightens the flavor and enhances the natural sweetness of the batter. Even something as little as a pinch of salt can make all the difference. Salt acts as a flavor enhancer. It can balance out foods that tend to be on the sweet side, such as French toast. Restaurants know that adding salt does not make something salty, but simply better. Similarly, honey and sugar are common additions to the custard base, adding even more sweetness. Of course, though, restaurant French toast does not stop with how they make the custard. Once the French toast is made, they will stuff and top it with all sorts of goodies: sliced fruit, caramel sauce, whipped cream, and custard. The list goes on. Blending is crucial to making French toast. While both cracked eggs and milk are considered liquids, eggs have a bit more substance to them. Anyone who makes French toast knows that without intervention, the egg and the milk will not become one. However, simply giving the egg a little mix is not enough. Restaurants such as Crest Cafe add pre-beaten eggs to their mixture. This helps ensure the eggs and the yolks have already come together. Then, the liquid and the eggs are whisked together. A homogeneous custard is formed, which evenly coats and soaks into the bread for French toast. Without proper blending, the French toast ends up with patches of scrambled egg instead of custard. Some restaurants will even go above and beyond and strain the custard base for an ultra silky finish with no patches of egg. Sure, this uses more dishes, but it's worth it for a restaurant-quality French toast. While at home, it's tempting just to add a small amount of spray oil or a little patch of butter. Restaurants have no such issue. They are working off the Julia Child approach, which uses generous quantities of butter. Butter can be added at almost any point in the cooking process, making a huge difference in flavor. Butter adds fat and often salt, making the whole dish fatty, crispy, and delectable. You may wonder if just the butter is enough to make such a difference. And the answer is yes. Take it from Anthony Bourdain.
It is usually the first thing and the last thing in just about every pan.
Really?
Yeah, that's why restaurant food tastes better than home food a lot of the times.
Restaurants will fry the French toast in butter, which adds a lovely browned butter flavor to the overall dish that you simply do not get from oil alone. Some go a step further. Denny's French toast, for example, is even served with butter on top. Restaurants know how to play to our taste buds. We've already discussed how many restaurants add more salt, sugar, and fat to food to make their food taste better. But that does not do justice to the instinctive drive humans have toward these foods. In his book, Salt, Sugar, Fat, Michael Moss looks at the food industry and how food is specifically designed to appeal to those 3 tastes. In an interview with CNN, Moss discusses the idea of the bliss point, which is the amount of something that will make humans hooked on the food. Moss found that the 3 components of salt, sugar, and fat were higher in many prepared foods. Take IHOP, for example. IHOP's original French toast contains 27 grams of fat, 570 grams of sodium, and 19 grams of sugar. This is significantly more than homemade, which can fluctuate, but a single slice can be as low as 3.36 grams of fat, 150 grams of sodium, and 1 gram of sugar. When you compare the two, it's easy to see why a restaurant's French toast tastes better.